Kevin Tosterholz for Queer Sense, and I'm your gay best friend who's good with money. Now, last time we talked about budgeting, and we are not quite done with it. So, here we go. What you're going to want to do with the receipts that you've collected, which we talked about last time, you should be keeping all your receipts. So, you've already made categories. Well, now we need to talk about what you're going to be doing with everything like that. Basically, figure out what your income is per month. Whether you're waiting tables, or you're freelancing, or you're acting, or you're doing something, or you're just working a normal desk job, you can figure out what your normal income is. If you don't know what your income is, average it. That means that if you're waiting tables, I know that the doldrums for most people who wait tables is somewhere around January to March. So if you look at an average over the year, maybe you bring in $1,500 a month. But obviously some months you make $3,000, some months you make virtually nothing. So use an average if you're waiting tables or something like that, because it gets a little scary out there and you're better off playing it safe with the money you're bringing in rather than assuming that you bring in $3,000 a month every month. By the same token, if you're a freelancer, do the same thing. Figure out what your what your income is, but be conservative with your numbers so that you don't end up going over budget. So, for example, if I'm bringing in, say, $700 in projects one month, but $2,000 in the next month, I'm going to need to average that out over the months instead of assuming that I'm always bringing in $2,000 so I can make rent. So what you do with your categories is just figure out which ones are needs and wants. And basically then what you do is you take your income and subtract all of your needs from it. If you've got money left over, then from there you can subtract out what your wants are and figure out what money you've got left to work with. What you can also do is start to realize that the wants that you have, you can start reducing those or not spending on those so you can meet your budget goals. And that's what's really important here, is to make sure that whatever you're budgeting for, you have a goal in mind. It's not a good idea just to save money without any real plan, because then it becomes a habit, and also what's the point in saving money if you're not spending it? I actually did this when I first started budgeting, as I just set aside a ridiculous amount of money. I was putting away probably about 40% of my income, actually, and I was living sort of like a monk otherwise, when I could have been a little more comfortable. So basically I loosened up the belt and saved up maybe 30% of my income, and with the remainder of that I was actually able to go out and have some fun without really having any guilt. So be sure that you have goals in mind. For example, going to Cancun, or setting up a 401k, just so long as you have a budget goal in mind. That's the best strategy, I think. Now, as for sticking to your budget, because I know that that's where the real tips come in here, you just kind of have to have discipline. What I would say is the best thing I can offer you as advice is to try to be conscientious of what you're doing. Oftentimes we can get really busy and stop thinking about what we're doing, and so if you can just take a moment every day you're about to spend money on something and just ask yourself, do I really need this? Do I want this? Is this in conflict with the goal that I'm setting for my budget? Then it makes a lot of sense. You can answer the question for yourself. And, maybe a $5 latte doesn't seem like that much, but as it's been said numerous times, that adds up over the month pretty quickly. So I'm sure you'll know what's best and you'll be able to figure it out. Now, let me talk about one other quick thing. If it turns out that you subtract your needs from your income and you come up with a negative number instead of a positive number, that obviously is a problematic situation, because it means you're losing money every month and you need to figure out a way out of that pretty quickly. The best advice, I know the economy isn't that great right now, but you can still find a second job doing something, maybe not something challenging, but at least something that you can do to staunch the flow of all of that money out of your savings account. The other thing that you can consider is reducing on your needs, like perhaps taking on a roommate, or you can reduce your cell phone plan, or maybe you can figure you don't need cable as well as internet. There's a lot of things that you can scale back that seem like needs that really aren't. For example, with groceries, I've found that you can spend a lot of money on lots of pre-made food, like maybe your grocery bill is too high. That looks like a need, but it actually is filled with wants. Like maybe you buy soda, and really you can be better off drinking water, and you'd save yourself a bunch of money every month, and that way you can even out. You should at least be even out, if anything, but of course you really do want to have a surplus of money so that you can save money And always just remember that you're paying yourself first. So what I always do is I just auto debit the money to my account, my savings account every month, and that way I have automatic savings and I don't have to think about doing it, because if I did, then I would never have savings. So hopefully that's been helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.